What's up, guys? It's Dwayne, back again for another video, back in for a reaction, and today's a great, wonderful, amazing, incredible, beautiful day because it's a Germany day. 10 life lessons from 10 plus years of living in Germany. Without further ado, let's get into this reaction. Let's go.
Germany, Germany, Germany. What a place. Steeped in fascinating history and ancient fairy tales. More castles than you know what to do with. And then, of course, there is the bread and the beer and the schnitzel and the schnapps. And yeah, Germany is a great place. But as is often the case in life, usually the greatest lessons are learned through pain, not pleasure. And in this context, Germany has been a great teacher. And so if you're thinking of moving here or just visiting the country, I think you're going to want to watch this video. It will be helpful for you. And if you're German, then do feel free to share your Einwände and your Anregung down below in the comments. But do please try to keep the comments in English if you can. Thanks.
Can I just say, he's called a Brit in Germany, I think. He's British. But he sounds like he's got a slight, well, he's been there for 10 years. He has a slight German twang to his British accent. Maybe as a German person you might not hear it, but as a Brit I can hear it in his voice, and I can hear the slight German twang. He's definitely been living in Germany for 10 plus years. Also, he's got a really nice voice, very deep. He's got a voice for radio, very nice voice.
Thanks so much, and let's dive right in. Lesson 1, be honest. Now, the Germans do have a reputation for their sort of blunt directness or lack of tact. And believe me, if you're coming from the US or the UK or Canada or really a lot of other countries, you will get offended. It just comes with the territory. You won't be able to avoid this. You know, you will feel like the customer service is abysmal. You will feel like you are a nuisance in stores and shops, and like the sales associates do not want to sell you anything. The phrase customer is king definitely does not apply in Germany. And especially in the workplace, it will take quite a bit of getting used to, especially when people like your colleagues call you out for doing something wrong. And this will be a shock to the system, especially if you are British. However, I do actually think that most of us could benefit from just being a little more direct and saying what we actually think. People like to know where they stand. They like to know where you stand, and you can never ever make everyone happy. And so just, state your preferences. Just say what you want to say without sort of trying to cloak everything in niceties.
Oh, he's definitely been in Germany for a long time, because we do that in the UK. We have this over politeness where we're so over polite that we just won't say what we think and feel because we're worried about either how that might make us look or also how the other person may feel if we said something that was a bit off. You know, that's a lot to worry about. Worrying about yourself and then worrying about the other person and being over polite so you don't tell them actually how you really feel. I prefer someone to just tell me how they feel, like, directly. I think it'll be a breath of fresh air when I go to Germany, like someone just telling me, like, we don't do this. I don't like that. Why did you do that? I don't like that. I don't mind. And also knowing beforehand that that's how German people are, I won't get offended because I'll be like, okay, that's just the culture in Germany, so it's not a problem.
And so one of the first lessons or takeaways from Germany is to just be more direct and upfront. Lesson 2, resilience. Now, I think that really moving abroad to any country is a great lesson in resilience. I know the French, for example, or at least the Parisians, are quite sort of renowned or well known for really answering any request with no. The first response is always no. And you have to keep chipping away and keep working hard to get a maybe, and possibly with a lot of work, get a yes to your request. The culture in Germany is what I would call principles-based. It's much more collectivist than the UK or the US. And you might sort of think of a collectivist culture as being very sort of warm and fuzzy and friendly. That's not the case. People can be very disagreeable here because it is necessary to be disagreeable to your fellow human being in order to maintain the societal norms. And so, contrary to the UK, where if somebody is doing something antisocial, the response is usually just to maybe look at them in a condescending manner, but you would never really say anything.
Yeah.
In Germany, it's very common to just, tell people they're doing something wrong. And I remember it was only a couple of weeks ago, actually, I was in the tram, and a young girl had put her feet up on the seat opposite her, and an old lady told her to put her feet down. And the girl refused, and there ensued a long discussion, quite a heated debate, quite a big discussion, which involved a lot of other passengers concerning the situation. And I think it really all comes down to this quote, which you've probably heard before, which is that the Germans are too honest to be polite, and the Brits are too polite to be honest.
I love that quote. The Germans are too honest to be polite, and the British are too polite to be honest. Which one would you rather be? I think I'd rather be German. I'm not gonna lie. I love that. And that story of the girl on the train putting her feet up and the woman telling her, put your feet down. She's been obviously defiant. Then everybody on the train is getting involved in the situation. Wow. So confrontation, you guys are not afraid of confrontation when you feel like you're just in that confrontation, or you're right. In your head, you're right. And obviously, the girl also felt like she was right in her situation. Maybe she said her legs are tired. Maybe the legs are hurting. And she was like, I want to put my feet up, so I'm going to do that. Obviously, I agree with the older lady. You shouldn't put your feet up on the seat because your feet are dirty with your shoes. You put them on the seat. Does someone else who comes onto the train and sits down, do they want to sit on your dirty, muddy marks on the seat? No, it's inconsiderate. Other people are using the train. So I agree with the lady. However, in Britain, happens all the time. Have I ever seen anyone say to somebody who's got on the train and put their feet on the seat that you shouldn't be doing that? No. Have I seen people give people dirty looks or condescending looks or like, that's disgusting? Yes. Normally in Britain, it's like, oh, they're trash, they're this. It's a very kind of, I look my nose down on them, but I'm not going to say anything, but, it's very much that. Germany, interesting. I can't wait to experience it. Because I'm probably going to do things wrong in Germany because I've never been before. So there will be certain rules that you guys have in Germany that I won't understand. Like, I won't know to do certain things. Maybe I will because I'm watching these videos. But because I haven't been to Germany before, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get someone come up to me and say, you don't do that, you do this. And I can't wait to experience it. It's going to be fun.
Strong principles that do sound very attractive in theory, but if you've ever lived with anyone who has very strong principles, it can be exhausting, especially if your personal needs are being snubbed for the greater common good. It can be exhausting. And so, I've definitely learned, one of the things I've learned is the importance of principles, but more importantly, just the value of perseverance and sticking at it and not giving up at the first sign of instability or uncomfortableness. Lesson 3, patience and perseverance. Now, Germany is a great...
Before he gets into this, I've just realized who he reminds me of. Guys, look at his face. He looks like Prince Harry. Am I wrong? He looks like an older Prince Harry. That's not a bad thing. Prince Harry's very handsome, but he looks like Prince Harry. No? Is it just me? I don't know. I don't think he does. He just reminds me of Prince Harry. I don't know why. Anyways, let's continue. I digress. I'm sorry.
Great teacher when it comes to being patient and persevering through difficulties. The culture in Germany is generally a lot more introverted than the US or the UK. And I read a really good analogy. I can't remember where I found this, but it was somewhere online. And it basically compared Germans to walnuts, and the US or the UK to avocados. Germans are quite hard and tough on the outside. It's very difficult to penetrate this sort of unfriendly exterior. But once you've cracked open this hard walnut shell, there's a lot of good, valuable qualities inside. And on the contrast, UK, the US, is more like an avocado. It's very soft on the outside. They're very friendly. It's very easy to get a superficial level of contact, but it's a lot harder to really go deep and get to the core of people. And this is one of the reasons why people really struggle to make friends in Germany. They find it very difficult Basically because, it takes work, it takes effort, and people do not have the patience or the perseverance to keep going. And it takes time for a German to call you their friend, and it takes time to build trust. Lesson number 4.
I've said this before, but it's funny because a lot of my friends, I don't have a lot of friends, but the friends that I do have, I'm really popular. The friends that I do have, I have one friend in particular who it took me a while to chip away at his exterior because he was very hard, he had a guard up, and it took me a while to get this person as a friend. And I had to chip away, and I finally found him. And he's so lovely and such a nice guy and so warm. But his exterior is very hard, very stone-faced, no expression. And I found the person within, the fun person within. So I'm very used to doing that. So I think I'll be all right with the German. I think I would. Takes time.
4. Life is a game. Now, imagine this. You're out on your bike, you're cycling through the city, minding your own business, and a car overtakes you and sort of cuts in front of you because they want to turn right. What is your response? What do you do when this happens? Well, the common response in Germany is to get very angry, get very irate, maybe even sort of thump your fists on the car or kick it, and have a very heated discussion or debate, and maybe even call the police. And I've seen this time and time again, and it was really very shocking from the beginning, but I have learned that this is actually, this is not really to be taken seriously. And I liken this kind of angry behavior to a football match, to what happens on the football pitch, at least, in modern day football. So everybody knows the rules, and people are trying to get a foul whenever possible. So whenever there's any kind of contact, the players go down on the ground, they raise their hands up in the air, and they look to the ref, and they try to get awarded a foul, a free kick, whatever, a penalty, because this is just how the game is played. These are the rules. And this is really no different in German society. It's a defense mechanism. It's just one way to make sure you don't get blamed for any sort of potential liability or risk when there is an accident involved. And, just like in the football match, people scream and shout, they go to the floor, they pretend they had a huge life-threatening injury. But the ref makes a decision and the game moves on. And if that decision did not really influence the result of the game, nobody cares. So this is...
I'm liking this analogy. Correct. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Everyone knows the rules. Everyone's playing by the rules. There's no shortcuts to the rules. Because rules are there to be in place so that everyone is on the same page. If someone then does something that's really out of character and out of the rules and is cheating, taking shortcuts that could be possibly dangerous, then that's not good. But whereas in Britain we'll be like, oh, they should have done that. But we say it quietly within. Germans will tell you.
This is something that is very difficult for the British to come to terms with, because we really have the opposite reaction when an accident occurs. It is usually the British response to, just apologize profusely, even if you know exactly that you did not do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And so this is something that you need to be aware of, that huge displays of emotion can be fickle and are not necessarily to be taken seriously. Lesson 5, your identity is predetermined. Now, this might be a little personal to me, and it's not completely specific to Germany, but it's a very important point which you should be aware of when moving abroad to any country, really. Who you are will play a massive role in how comfortable you end up feeling in Germany or in the country of your choice, wherever you're moving to. Okay. People need things to latch onto. They need bits of information to try to understand you and work out who you are, if you're safe, if you're a threat, or what you're doing in the country. And a big part of identity is nationality. And people make snap judgments all the time. We all do it. If you say you don't, then you probably do it more than the rest of us. It's just a fact. It's just a reality of life. We all judge each other all the time.
Where's he getting at? I want to know what he's getting at. I see the British in him is coming out. He's waffling. We like to waffle.
And this is something which I noticed acutely in 2016 and the years following 2016. if you've forgotten, 2016 is the year that Brexit happened. And this really changed the perception and the treatment of, I think, most British really anywhere abroad across the world. We were just perceived a bit differently after that. And it was really, at this time that I became aware how special the German-British relationship had been. I didn't really appreciate this before, but people really took this very personally here. I had many discussions with friends and with people that I was meeting for the first time, and they took this decision very personally, and they often held me personally responsible for this decision, even though they didn't know me. It really felt a bit like a breakup, like it felt that they were upset with me because I was breaking up with them, even though we didn't have a personal relationship. And it was...
That's so interesting, even though he's not a diplomat and it wasn't his decision in that sense. But I can imagine, like, it was hard for us though, guys. Like, honestly, like, obviously probably for you, like, you're thinking, like, it probably was hard for you guys seeing that us leave, and it's kind of like, why would you leave? Like, why would you sever that relationship and that tie with Europe? But for the British people, like I've said this before, but for the British people that voted to stay in the EU, which I was one of those people, and many others, actually 50% nearly of the population, I think it was like 48 to 52 or something percent, I could be wrong, fact check me, but it was very close to 50-50. It was horrible for the half that voted to stay in the EU. When we lost that vote, it was horrible, and especially because of the narrative that they spun to convince half the population to vote to leave. It was an absolute con. A great con because it worked, but like just be have solace in knowing that half of Britain didn't want to leave the EU. That's all I'm saying.
And it was not possible to have a logical, rational discussion. People got very emotional and very personal very quickly. And it's just, something to keep in mind that who you are, your nationality, the country where you are born, follows you around the world wherever you go. And the leaders of that country make decisions, and that influences you and how you are perceived in the country that you end up living in. So I would just say the lesson to take away here is to be aware of this and maybe to look up the attitudes that Germans might have towards your own country. Because it's important. It will determine your life satisfaction and if you're actually going to be able to integrate here or not.
I completely agree. As someone who doesn't live in, by the way, if you didn't know, I don't actually live in Britain currently. We'll be moving back. I live in Thailand. I live in Asia. When I first moved here, very interesting because I, as a black British person, when I was in Britain, obviously I'm British. I was born there. My parents were born in Britain. Like, I feel British. But in Britain, there's a clear distinction because of race and culture. I have British culture, but I also have my grandparents' culture, which is from the Caribbean. And when I was in Britain, there was a clear distinction of feeling also different as well as feeling part of Britain. I also felt separate from maybe white British people. When I moved from home, when I moved from England and I moved to Thailand, it's interesting because although I'm a black guy and that is my race is the first thing that is presented, because of my nationality and being in a different country, my British identity almost strengthened, or the way that I saw myself and my British identity strengthened. And I've never experienced that before living in my own country. But when I moved to Thailand, I was like, oh my God, I am British. And when I moved to Thailand, a lot of things happened in Britain that strengthened my nationality as well. Like our late Queen passing away. That was such a big thing. And when I was living here, I watched her funeral from abroad and I felt a great sense of nationality and being a British person and feeling sad for our monarch passing away. and I'm not even a royalist. I'm not. I've never been a royalist. When the coronation happened, I'm not the biggest fan of Prince Charles. Sorry, King Charles now. But when he became king, I decided to watch the coronation, and I thought it was an amazing display of British culture, and the just seeing the pompous and pageantry of it all was incredible, and I felt incredibly British during that moment. And I was like, wow, moving to a new country, like he said, just like moving to Germany, moving to any new country, you definitely feel more, well, more like British, because people will let you know. When I moved to Thailand, people let you know, oh, you're British. Do you like this? Do you like football? Do you like your queen? Do you like da, da, da? You get those questions. And it really depends on how your country is seen by the country you're moving to. And depends on like your satisfaction and of living in a country. How well you're able to integrate, or how well you're able to be liked initially by people, depends on the way your country is seen by other countries. So I understand what he's saying, basically. Sorry, that was a long way around of explaining that, but I'm British and we waffle.
Lesson number 6 is to focus on what matters and to start now. When moving abroad, there's a decision that we all have to make. Should I learn the language? I mean, this is a no-brainer, of course. My answer is yes. Everyone needs to learn the language of the country that they move to. But if you are somebody that does not enjoy learning languages as a heavy lift for you, you will probably make up excuses like you need to get settled in first. Maybe you need to sort of get settled into your job and wait for things to calm down, and then you can start with language lessons. And in my experience, the people that do this, that don't start right from the beginning, just never learn the language at the end of the day. They just never get around to it. And so learning German is hard. It doesn't have the romantic connotations of French or Italian. It's a difficult language to learn. But the longer you leave it...
Is it a difficult language? Not that I haven't learned German, but is it a difficult language to learn for a British person? I would have thought it's like one of the easiest languages for an English person to learn, no? German, Spanish even. I don't know.
The harder it's going to get and the longer it's going to take. And this really is one thing when moving abroad, when moving to Germany. The one thing you can do to make life easier, to make life more enjoyable, is to learn the language. It will have a positive effect on everything, on finding a job, on making friends, on settling in, just, basic daily things like signing a rental contract or booking cinema tickets. And believe it or not, a lot of Germans do actually not feel confident speaking English, and they do not enjoy it. And, it's an effort for them. And so if you're making the local population sort of do something they feel uncomfortable with, then obviously you're going to have a negative reaction. It's going to reflect negatively onto you. And so basically the lesson I've taken away here is that if there is resistance, if there is something that you are procrastinating and trying not to do, if you can determine that it is very important and that it will help you in other areas of your life, you have to start now. You have to start as soon as you possibly can.
I agree.
Just wait.
I agree. If you're going to live in a country and move to a country for a long period of time, preface on long, then you should really learn the language or try and learn the language. I've moved to Thailand, and you're probably asking in your head, but have you learnt Thai? I can say a few lines in Thai. I haven't been here a very long time, and I don't plan on living here for a very long time, but I have learnt enough to get me by, and a few lines. Like Fakti Lobby Kap means, please, will you leave it in the lobby, please? So when I order something, they can leave it in the lobby. Or Sawadee Kap means hello. And yeah, a few other words. Just things to get you by on a daily basis. Or chai means yes, chai Kap. So I've learned a couple words, but yeah, I think it's really important if you're going to live somewhere for a long period of time, you should definitely learn the language.
Waiting will not help. Lesson number 7 Efficiency and optimization come at a price. Now, I think Germany is often sort of put on a pedestal as being a country of efficiency and optimization, and having all their systems dialed in so that everything is kind of maxed out to maximum potential. But I think that most people don't realize is that this comes at a cost. In order for a country to be efficient and optimized, the individual people of that country have to behave in a certain way. And this comes at the cost of individual creativity and ultimately individual freedom. The manager at one of my first jobs here in retail was a bit of a control freak. Everything was really very well structured. It was very well organized and regimented, and everything ran like clockwork. And we were a very successful team. So much so that we often got, a lot of visits from head office trying to work out what we were doing differently. The truth is that this manager had deeply ingrained systems and processes into everyone, and she was really relentless. And if anyone deviated from the routine, then there would be disciplinary meetings, and this person will be brought back into line, so to speak. And we were very successful until the company decided to shift their strategy, and instead of just focusing purely on turnover, they started focusing on customer retention and customer loyalty and all that kind of stuff. And then we started to struggle because this kind of efficiency and optimization doesn't really leave room for change or growth or creativity. And I think this is something which Germany is struggling with at the moment. And so the lesson I'm taking away from this is to really try to keep open-minded and not become rigid, because even if something is working very well now, today, doesn't mean it will continue to work tomorrow or next week. You have to be ready to change and adapt. It's also very...
Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to think about things. If you're regimented and you're really stuck in your ways, it's like when an older person, not generalizing all older people, but a lot of the times as we get older, we are used to doing things a certain way, things that worked really, really well in the past. And then you just like, well, this is what worked for me in the past. It did really, really well. And they're not realizing there's a new way of doing things. And maybe what you're doing is not optimal. And because of your regimented ways, you get left behind. You don't want that to happen. It's like with technology. That happens a lot with technology. Like, say back in the day, you never used to use computers to do everything. Now everything is digital. Imagine if you're still analog, then it's just not going to work. You're going to get left behind. It's just the world keeps moving. The world keeps evolving. Like, what have we got today? AI. AI is going to be central to every single industry. And if we do not adapt and if we do not learn AI now, we will be left behind. Because that is going to, God, in the next 5 years.
Very possible to optimize the fun out of things. It might not be very efficient to chat with your colleagues at work, but it might make you feel better. It might raise your mood, and it might actually make you end up being more productive than the person who is glued to their desk for 8 hours a day. Lesson number 8, slow living. Now, one of the best things about living in Germany is the focus on a more holistic life, which does not solely revolve around work. Now, of course, this does exist as well, but it's more of an individual choice. You don't have to choose this in Germany. And there really are very strong subcultures of anti-commercialism, of community and sort of alternative lifestyles. And I'm sure you've already heard about the famous Sundays where the shops are closed. It might seem trivial, keeping the shops closed on Sunday and regulating work hours. But I do think this kind of thing is instrumental in playing a role in life satisfaction and giving people the opportunity to focus on things of more substance, which ultimately are going to bring more meaning and more life satisfaction than focusing purely on profit and the next promotion or the next pay rise. Career and work are important. They are very important, but it takes more than this to lead a life of quality. Which leads me on to my next point, lesson number 9. Quality over quantity. If there's one thing I've learned since living in Germany, it is the importance of prioritizing quality over quantity. And this really spills into all the areas of
Quality
life in
over
Germany,
quantity.
from food to consumer products to relationships and even to things like downtime and relaxation. This focus on quality is very important in Germany, and this is something which resonates with me a lot. Now, I'm sure there are going to be many people which disagree with this.
I'm beginning to, like, I get what he's saying. This is his experience of Germany. But surely it's very subjective, no? I would think that this would be very subjective. Not everyone in Germany probably wants quality. I'm sure in Berlin, not to pick on Berlin, but there are a lot of people that are quite like rough around the edges, and I'm sure they're like, well, I'm not bothered about quality, and quantity is good. I don't know. Let's continue. Let's hear what he's got to say.
With this lesson, the general zeitgeist at the moment is that Germany is going downhill and everything is falling apart. And I think it's really just all a matter of perspective and comparative analysis. Yes, okay, quality of consumer products and even things just like clothing has deteriorated pretty much across the whole Western world. But comparatively, Germany, when compared to many other European countries, is still a country which places a very high focus on quality, and there are extremely high standards in many industries. And I, for one, really appreciate the quality of food here. I'd never, the term food desert is just foreign. I'd not really heard of this term before. This does not exist in Germany. There's so much organic produce, even in supermarkets like Lidl and Aldi, they have a lot of organic stuff. There are farmers markets all over the place, and also farmers shops where you can buy stuff directly at the source. And this for me is quality. That's number 10.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Quality. Food quality is good, which is good. Stereotypes.
Stereotypes do still very much apply. The common discussion that I often have when I go back home to the UK is, the idea that cultural stereotypes are no longer valid. They're no longer accurate. This is a thing of the past with immigration, globalization. You can't use these cultural stereotypes anymore. And this is, in my opinion, completely false. Cultural stereotypes are still very accurate and they're still very helpful, especially if you're moving to a foreign place that you don't know that much about. It's very useful and very helpful to learn about these cultural stereotypes so you can be a little bit prepared before arriving in the country. And it doesn't matter how...
He's saying stereotypes still apply. Is that accurate? Is that an accurate thing to gauge a people by, a stereotype? A lot of the time, stereotypes are very damaging. Sometimes stereotypes are completely false. So is that a good, barometer to measure a nation by before you move? I don't know. I mean, some stereotypes are true. Some stereotypes ring true, but for the most part, stereotypes are harmful because no group of people are homogenous. No one group of people are the same. We're all different as individuals. So to say that a stereotype of a people is important to understand before you go to somewhere, I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm going to hear him out. I'm going to hear him out.
How many exceptions there are to the rule. Exceptions are by definition exceptions, and they do not disprove the rule. So I do hope this was interesting or helpful for you in some way. I would love to hear your thoughts. Do you have any other ideas on...
I don't know. The last one for me, I don't know why stereotypes would be helpful for someone going to a new country. I think it's very important personally, especially with me moving to Thailand. Actually, the stereotypes that I had of Thai people, in some ways was harmful, or of Asian people in general. Some of the stereotypes I had was quite harmful and detrimental to the way that I interacted with Asian people and Thai people specifically when I moved here. So I really personally believe that when moving to a new country, you should find out for yourself. Do you know what I mean? You need to find out for yourself. You need to interact with the people. You need to learn on the ground rather than taking stereotypes with you and gauging people from that. Does that make sense? I don't know. But for the rest of it was a really good video. And yeah, he does remind me of Prince Harry, and he's got a very soothing voice. I'm going to watch more of him. Make sure you subscribe to Brit in Germany. I like him. What's his name? Benjamin. I like you, Benjamin. Anyways, if you're watching. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, I will see you very soon.